This video is not about Minecraft. We will be talking about the game, but if you don't know anything about it, that's okay. Because ultimately, this video is about profiteering, copyright violations, scam artists, and exploitation. And it is also about how I was a part of these systems. So, put on your iron helmets, get those diamond pickaxes ready, and let's dig in. A few weeks ago, I ran across a video by Retro Gaming Now called The Minecraft Scam No One Is Talking About, which I have linked in the description and I highly recommend checking out. The gist of the video is that Retro Gaming Now was alerted to the existence of a listing on Amazon for a book whose title was the same title he had used for one of his more popular videos. He checked out the book and found that it was basically just a transcript of his video, including screenshots on each page, and the cover was even the thumbnail of a different Minecraft YouTube video. After he learned about this, he went down a rabbit hole and discovered that it wasn't just his video that had been snatched and plagiarized, but there were over 20 other books that were just transcripts of popular Minecraft YouTube videos, all written by first name, minor, last name. And all of their titles were simply the title of the YouTube video they had plagiarized, plus some SEO word salad to help the listings analytics. The creator of Retro Gaming Now theorized that the books were made using bots or some kind of automated system, since they obviously hadn't been proofread. There were basic spelling errors, sentences that just didn't make any sense, and the screenshots that they used on each page usually didn't correspond to the subject matter and were sometimes so dark that you couldn't even make anything out. The only evidence that there was any human hand in the books at all was the fact that for all of the videos they transcribed and printed, they also cut out the intros and outros. Anytime the actual video creator referenced themselves or talked about YouTube or asked the viewers to like and subscribe was just missing. Clearly there was some person making these decisions, right? Well, it was hard to tell, and even through his research, RGN wasn't able to find anything definitive either way. He ended the video by just asking viewers not to buy these books and to help spread this information around so that creators whose videos were plagiarized could alert Amazon and have the listings taken down because they were clearly violating copyright law. But other than that, there hasn't really been any solution to this, and the people who profited off of someone else's work probably aren't going to face any real consequences outside of maybe just not being able to sell books on Amazon anymore. So it's kind of fizzled out. Okay, Zoe, you may be saying, sure, this sucks, but what does it have to do with you? Well, that is a good question. Alright, so before we get into how I am mixed up in this whole Minecraft content theft stuff, we need to set the scene a little bit. Imagine, it's the summer of 2015, and little Zoe B is a college student in between terms looking for work. She's living with her boyfriend who has a very important job at a very important company, but she wants to make some money for herself so she can buy some nice things like video games and a Wii U. Yes, I was one of the 12 people in the whole world who actually bought a Wii U. I still have it. It's downstairs. It still works. It was great. No regrets, actually. But at this point in my life, I didn't have my driver's license yet. I was very much a late bloomer when it came to driving. So I had to find a job that I could do online. Now, I had done some tutoring work in school, but now that it was summer break, there weren't really a lot of people who needed help writing essays and stuff, so I needed to find something else. And that's when I discovered Fiverr. Now, those of you who have been around YouTube for a few years may recognize Fiverr as that freelance platform that PewDiePie used to destroy his career, but if you don't know what Fiverr is, it's an online marketplace that connects customers to freelancers who fulfill gigs, jobs that traditionally started at $5, hence the name Fiverr. So when I found Fiverr, I felt like it was perfect. I could set my own hours and rates, decide which jobs to accept, and I could do all of it from the comfort of my own shitty little apartment. So I set up my account and marketed myself as a writer who would do various writing-related gigs like editing, proofreading, and ghostwriting. Now, it was the ghostwriting gig that got the most hits. There were people who wanted me to help them make their memoir dreams a reality, or write steamy romance novels, or even write Minecraft fanfiction.
Hey, do you have knowledge on the game Minecraft? I would like you to provide me with a sample of 2 diary entries, 100 to 200 words, on the character Enderman.
Yes, I'm very familiar with the game. When would you like this by?
If you can deliver 2 diary entries in 1 to 3 days, I'm willing to pay you $30. Must be creative and knowledgeable of the game. I will be using Copyscape to check for plagiarism. Hey, I like your writing style. So for this Enderman character, I described him as a legendary Enderman. Do you think you can work around that? 5,000 words, 1 to 3 days, $30, long term, if I like the work you provide. I have no idea what this fucking word, I don't know what this word is meant to be, Zoe. Consisme turned this into a sequel.
Great, I'm looking forward to working with you. Are these stories going to be published?
I'm not sure if it's going to be published or what my employer wants to do with this. I'm working under someone else as well, and I was not given much information. Great story! Would you like to continue to write a sequel for this character? A second story?
Sure, I'd love to.
Do you think you could come up with a new plot after the 4th diary, where Carl and Steve finally defeats the Ender Man?
Do you mean the Ender Dragon? They defeated the Ender Dragon in the first book.
Oh, wait, so what was the conclusion for the second one? Wait, can you give me a brief description of what is going on in the second one? I didn't get a chance to read it, I just sent it to my partner. Great, thank you. Please begin the next diary, and the plot is free for you to decide. Smiley face.
So, I wrote Minecraft books. The Diary of a Legendary Enderman, books 1 through 3. And I sent them to my Fiverr customer, and then they sent them to some mysterious upper manager, and then they were published on Amazon for about $10 each, and I was paid next to nothing. This was actually something that I'd been planning to talk about in a much bigger video in May, and that video is still happening. And it's going to be one of like the biggest videos that I've ever done in terms of scope. Like, I'm even talking to a lawyer to make sure that everything that I say is actually legal. It's a whole thing. So keep an eye out for it, and you can subscribe and ring the bell to make sure that you are notified when it comes out. And if you're watching from the future, it should be linked down below, and it adds a whole other layer of context and complexity and confusion to the already complicated topic of the ethics of ghostwriting and how writers for hire are treated. Anyway, I know what you're thinking. How can all of this be legal? Like, those other books are definitely infringing on copyright, but these that literally have the word Enderman in the title and the word Minecraft on the cover, they're definitely illegal too, right? Well, dear viewer, I thought the same thing. Turns out it's actually totally okay. Mojang is really chill about fan works, so as long as you don't have Minecraft as the first word in the title, and as long as you make it clear that your thing is unofficial, then it's 100% fine. You can make it and sell it to your heart's content. So the books that I wrote were actually legal. But that doesn't make them okay. Now, it's not actually the books themselves that I have a problem with, it's the stuff behind the books. It's the driving force that makes these kinds of churned out kids' books a viable market. That is what I have a problem with. And that's why watching Retro Gaming Now's video was really wild, because I didn't realize just how deep this rabbit hole went. I thought that my ghostwriting experience was an isolated incident. I didn't realize that there was this whole huge market for these low-quality, low-effort Minecraft books for kids. But there is. And it's a problem. So what really is the problem with all of this? Like, why am I making a whole video about weird kids' books? They're kids' books. They don't matter, right? Well, I would like to bring in another video to help illuminate a new angle of this whole rabbit hole. Weird kids videos and gaming the algorithm by Folding Ideas. In the video, Dan Olson talks about the phenomenon of surreal cartoon and live-action videos of popular movie characters like Elsa from Frozen and Spider-Man, doing weird, sometimes bordering on inappropriate, sometimes definitely inappropriate skits. This was big in the mid-2010s, and since then YouTube has really cracked down on this kind of content, but it's still an important part of the platform's history. Hundreds of channels, many of which were actually connected and run by the same parent group, churned out these videos featuring these huge, easily recognizable properties doing weird and often just incomprehensible stuff. And kids would watch these videos on repeat for literally millions of hours altogether. Some of these videos had tens of millions of views because their titles were just word salad made to appeal to the algorithm, so one would lead to the next, would lead to the next, would lead to the next, and kids would just get sucked down the rabbit hole of garbage content. The popularity of these kinds of videos sort of sputtered out by 2018-2019 thanks to YouTube's new guidelines for kids content, but this phenomenon is still alive and well in these Minecraft books we've been talking about. Just like superheroes and Disney princesses, Minecraft is a wildly popular franchise. It reached over 200 million total sales by 2020, and Minecraft videos on YouTube have totaled over 200 billion views. That's billion with a B. For both the videos and the books, people have identified these really popular pieces of media and found a way to recreate them in a variety of forms, some of which are more legal than others, and make a profit. So we know that they're choosing these properties because they're popular, especially with kids who are an easy market. But now the question becomes, why does all of this stuff just suck? Because it can suck and still make them money. In his video, Dan says that he doesn't know whether the Weird Kids videos were made by people or by some video-generating AI, and that it doesn't really matter. The standards for the quality of the videos are so low that a machine can make a video that is just as watchable as a video made by an actual human. Basically, the videos are so low effort that there's functionally no difference in the quality between the stuff made by people and the stuff made by algorithms. And what's interesting is that this was a point that RGN brought up too. He said that he sort of assumed that the books were generated by a program that just automatically pulled the transcripts from videos and put it into an ebook format, but that there were some things that indicated that there must have been some human hand in the creation, like how every reference to the original creator was just wiped from the script. So this line between human-made content and machine-made content is so blurred that we can't even really tell if there is any human behind these sketchy products. And even in the case of the books that I wrote, there was still not very much effort going into it. I mean, I tried my best to write good stuff, but from the perspective of the people actually selling the books, there was next to no effort. They just had to outsource the actual writing to some college kid somewhere for $30 and then take their Word document, put it in an ebook format, slap a cover on it, and it was ready to sell. All of these types of kids' content were incredibly low effort. But selling low effort stuff isn't illegal, and it's honestly not even immoral. So what is the problem with doing something the easy way? Like, if it's actually this easy to make money, it would be foolish not to take advantage of that, right? Well, in a vacuum, all things being equal, sure, if you want to sell garbage to people and if people buy it, go ahead. But I think that what makes the difference in this case is who the audience is. This Minecraft content, like the Frozen Elsa Pregnant Colors Superhero Spider-Man Hulk vs. Venom Joker Fidget Spinners Colors for Kids videos, it's actually kind of fun to say, is geared purposefully and specifically toward children. To the people making this content, kids are just easy prey. They don't know any better. They see something that says Minecraft and they click. They see the books that look just like other YouTube videos or books that look just like that other series that they enjoy reading and they want it. Who wouldn't want a crossover between their two favorite franchises, right? And one response to this might be that, yeah, Kids aren't very smart. They haven't had the life experience to teach them not to fall victim to scams, so people shouldn't be blamed for taking advantage of that. It's a totally valid market. But I think that we need to take a step back and think about why kids do this in the first place. What is it about this content in particular that is so appealing to them? Why do they watch these videos over and over and over and over? Why do they like seeing familiar characters everywhere? The reason kids are so into this kind of content is the same reason that kids like to watch the same movie over and over and over, or read the same book at bedtime night after night after night. They like repetition. Kids enjoy repetition because repetition helps them learn, so their brains are hardwired to want repetition. Kids also enjoy repetition because it's comfortable. If they have a consistent cast of characters and they know what sorts of roles they'll be playing, then they know what's coming, and that's comforting. When so much of their world is scary and unpredictable, having books or cartoons or YouTube videos that stay the same as they have always been, it feels safe. So I don't want to put any blame on the children who read or watch the kinds of things that I've talked about today. Kids will be kids, and what kids want is to consume the same piece of media over and over and over and over and over and over until it slowly breaks down every bit of patience that their parents have left. And on the one hand, it'd be really easy to put the blame on the individuals creating and selling these products. I mean, some of them are just obviously violating copyright, but even the other ones are just doing some problematic things. They're exploiting children who they think they can get away with selling garbage to, and exploiting people like me who are willing to work for way under market price for what we're doing. And what's worse is that they were doing all of this exploitation to mass produce some really low quality stuff. RGN's Minecraft bootlegs and Dan Olson's pregnant Elsa and Spider-Man videos and my Diary of a Legendary Enderman books were all pretty bad, if we're being totally honest. They weren't the kind of thing that people would really want their kids to be reading or watching. They had no real substance or meaning or purpose. And if there was any quality in any of these products, that quality came from the people actually doing the work. The quality came from the proofreaders and the printers and the video editors and the writers. The people who were paid pennies to make these products actually readable or watchable. The quality did not come from the channels themselves or publishers or any of the higher-ups who were reaping the rewards from selling these garbage products. And if kids got any enjoyment from these things, then that was incidental too. Any enjoyment that they got came from the original source material, from seeing the YouTubers or the Marvel characters or the Minecraft mobs, all of the things that were actually created with thought and care and passion. But even still, I don't really want to put all of the blame on the writers or creators of these books or videos either. I mean, all of the actual illegal stuff aside, in this world, in this economy, in this society that we live in, it just makes sense to make money in the easiest way possible, right? When we're incentivized to make the most money with the least amount of effort, why would we not do that? Is it really fair to blame people for taking advantage of a system that incentivizes this kind of thing? And to be clear, this is a problem with the system. I mean, this is just one very small corner of the system, but this one part, the way that the market incentivizes the mass production of garbage, is representative of the rest of the system too. The way that the bootleg Minecraft content market works is the way that every market works. For instance, when I was working on the script and talking to Charlie the editor about it, he told me how he, as a full adult human being, had something similar happen to him recently, where he went to buy the copy of a screenplay of his partner's favorite movie, but then when he got it, it just turned out to be a transcript of the movie printed in some cheap booklet. These kinds of cheap cash grabs aren't just happening to kids' content, they're happening to all content. Because if they're willing to exploit children, they're willing to exploit anyone. And that includes you. And me, and Charlie the editor, I guess. Everyone. This doesn't just affect little kids who don't know any better. It affects you and the media that you enjoy. And the solution to this isn't to just have, like, stricter copyright law or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that Mojang needs to change its policy for fan creations and take down anything that has the word Minecraft in it. I don't think that that's the case. I honestly think that more companies should do things the way that Mojang does them. But what I am saying is that if a system makes the production of garbage a valuable venture, it isn't a very good system, and it either needs to change or be gotten rid of.
Exploitation is encoded into the systems we are building, making it harder to see, harder to think and explain, harder to counter and defend against. Not in a future of AI overlords and robots in the factories, but right here, now, on your screen, in your living room and in your pocket. These videos, wherever they are made, however they come to be made, and whatever their conscious intention, i.e. to accumulate ad revenue, are feeding upon a system which was consciously intended to show videos to children for profit. What we're talking about is very young children, effectively from birth, being deliberately targeted with content via networks which are extremely vulnerable to exactly this form of abuse. It's not about trolls, but about a kind of violence inherent in the combination of digital systems and capitalist incentives. It's down to that level of the metal. The system is complicit in the abuse.
We need to change things. But until that change happens, you probably shouldn't buy these books or watch these videos that these people are making. But also remember that behind every Diary of a Legendary Enderman, there's a struggling college student who is just trying to make ends meet by doing the one thing that they have ever been good at: writing weird video game fanfiction. Okay, I guess the conclusion of this whole thing is that we need to do more to protect kids. Which feels a little bit like a cop-out answer, honestly. Like, this whole video just comes down to, won't someone think of the children? But I don't think that there's anything we can do right now other than just not buying these books and reporting the ones that are actually illegal. If you have a solution to this, please leave it in the comments, because I genuinely don't know where to go from here. Outside of huge systemic change that removes the incentives that people have for creating this low-effort kids content, I think that we might just be stuck wading through this bog of bootleg garbage. But that's kind of a downer, so let me leave you on a positive note. Creation, genuine creativity in all of its forms, is hard. When you put your heart into your work and aim to make the best thing that you can make, it's gonna be hard. But I promise you, it is always worth it. When I write poems, when I make videos, when I work on my novel, it is sometimes lonely and often challenging, but it is always fulfilling. When you know that what you're doing is your best, when you know that you worked hard to make a thing and you put a piece of yourself into that thing, even if you are the only person in the world who ever sees that thing, you've created something. You have put something into the world that wasn't here before. That means something. That is significant. So keep crafting, keep writing and building and drawing and painting and making music and games and puzzles and art and all of those little things that make life worth it. If we keep putting stuff into the world, maybe we can make things a little brighter. It's worth a shot, right? Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're watching from the future, hello, how is the future? Let me know. But also be sure to check out the follow-up video to this one that is linked in the description and on the end screen. So I want to give a huge thank you to Mildred from Thought Slime, who did a frighteningly good job at playing the weird customer on Fiverr role. Future Zoe here to say that I didn't mention it in the video because I actually hadn't heard back from him by the time I was recording, but I do want to give a huge thank you to Dan Olson from Folding Ideas for supplying his voice for that quote read there at the end. Thank you so much. I want to give a huge thanks to all of my patrons and members whose names you can see scrolling somewhere beside me. I don't know, it's a green screen, they can be wherever you want. And if you would like to join them in the credits, then hop on over to my Patreon, which is linked in the description, or hit that join button next to the subscribe button, and you can get lots of cool stuff, like behind the scenes stuff and little extra videos. For this month, the extra video is actually going to be me doing a dramatic reading of one of the Minecraft books that I wrote, so if that sounds fun, then go ahead and become a supporter. I also want to give an extra special thanks to A Tasty Snack, Adam, Al Swigert, Dylan, Robert Bradford, and Science Punk Sellout, who made it possible for me to feed my cats. And finally, we have our patron poem of the video. For Jessica Goodall, here is Hard Drive Space. Like your childhood notebooks, full of the names of 8-year-old boys and miss-sized butterflies and tigers, pages now mothball lost in attic dust. Or those outgrown blue shoes full of field trips and first kisses, and hard marching band miles off in some box in some closet. A whole world of ones and zeros, empty but for castles and hoarded riches and memories of middle school late nights, is burned away to make space. And until next time, stay safe, stay warm, and I will see y'all again soon, I hope. Bye, folks.
But rather than just writing the minimum 5,000 words, I would like you to go above and beyond, exceed my expectations.